Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Laura Sturm.
And I'm Josh Rohr. Welcome to episode 88. So one of the questions that we got recently was about programming. And the question was basically, in regards to our customized programming, what does it mean to address weaknesses and how do we approach that? I think it's an awesome question. So one of the main aspects of that is, identifying weak muscle groups. But it's not just that, it's also looking for imbalances, from not just side to side, but even from like ratios like quad strength to hamstring strength, things like that. But the other thing is just looking at inefficient movement patterns that lifters have at certain ranges of motion, which can be a result of certain muscle weaknesses or imbalances, but it could also just be a lack of skill in that range of motion. So we look at all of those things and program accordingly. And, it may be, specific hypertrophy work for lagging muscle group. It may be, more detailed practice at a certain range of motion in a movement where you have technique breakdown, things like that. So I think looking at all of that holistically is important. And just to say like, oh, it's because of this. Most times it's not one solution. It's usually a combination of a few things that we kind of look at and program those, variations to address the specific range of motion that we need more skill built, but also certain exercises specific to build strength and, the lagging muscle groups as well. So
how do you find out what the person's weaknesses are?
That's where I spin that little wheel in the back and just guess. No, it's basically, if you look at, just using, this is a very simple example, but, let's just say lockout strength in the bench press. The first thing people say is it's weak triceps, right? And it very well likely is, but it could also be, looking at the technique of everything. If their shoulders are rotating forward during the press, that's because a lot of times their back isn't strong enough to support the position. Therefore, the triceps can't even work efficiently because they're out of position. So yes, the generic answer is tricep weakness is the answer for bench lockout, but it's not always the case. So it's a combination of looking at the technique, and that's why with our programming, we do very detailed video analysis and kind of really fine tune like technique with people, because, once that's established, then it is a lot more simple in terms of saying, okay, this muscle group is weak, this muscle group is weak. And that's the reason, because everything else has been built up and stabilized around it. So did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Kinda.
So would you say it's more of an art or a science?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a tough one. I think it's both. So it's definitely both. So I come from an exercise science background. So coming out of school, everything was like, if this, then this. Everything was very my brain was very based around the science of programming and the science of, endocrine response and, what kind of response you get in general from different training stimuli. But that's really not the case. It's part of the case, but it's not the end all be all. And I think that's where the art of it comes, is because, on paper, if your bench lockout is weak, it's weak triceps. But again, using that same example, it could be other things breaking down that don't allow your triceps to actually work efficiently. So, so there is an art to figuring out what, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the triceps are weak, or is it the triceps are lagging because they're not able to work in the efficient positions that they're supposed to be in? So
That's a good point. Well, and then there's the whole like, okay, they're weak. What's the best way to make them stronger?
right.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Are we trying to get bodybuilder triceps? Or are we trying to,
Right.
or are we trying to actually, so that's the other thing, like different tricep movements are like, there's a scale of priority, I guess, in terms of how directly a movement relates to the compound movement, the bench press. So just doing, simple tricep movements, while they are triceps, you have different heads of the triceps. In fact, most people say tricep, but technically it's triceps plural, because there are, tri means three, right? So there's three different heads of the tricep. So different angles of training training the triceps relate more directly to locking out a bench press. So, there's more to even just programming tricep work. It's specific tricep work that, hits those parts of the triceps that are most efficiently used in locking out a bench press. So
Right.
I could talk about boring stuff like this all day.
Oh, you can get totally geeky all the time. I know.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the voting that happened this last
And
weekend.
and Laura basically just said, "Oh, I've had enough. You're right. Move on."
Well, I think it is a topic that you could kind of go on forever just about that, one example. Well, there's so many examples. You could just go on for days, like why you could dissect someone's squat stance, and they might feel like this is my best squat stance. Well, maybe it's not. Why is that your squat stance? And look at, mobility issues along there, and what is your best squat stance based on your mechanics and
and that honestly can evolve over time. And what's ideal right now may not be in another 5 years,
right.
just based on how things have developed. So. All right, we can move on. I know you're tired of hearing.
It's a rabbit hole, is all I'm saying. It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So we can talk squat stance some other day.
Yeah,
that's not
sure.
What's the perfect squat stance? All right, so we're going to get into the voting results. We were voting on the top 5 movie soundtracks, and the first round we had Amy versus Siraj. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Amy came out ahead with 59%. She had 17 votes, and Siraj only had 41% with 12 votes. So Amy will go on and face Jim Battenfield.
Yeah. Jimmy Battenfield. Our next matchup was Daria versus Amber, and Daria took that one 16 votes to 11 votes. So Daria will actually square off against Amy Pancake next week. Oh, and I should point out, voting is going to be on Saturday next week, because Sunday is Easter Sunday. So make sure you guys are looking for the Instagram poll on Saturday versus Sunday this week.
All right, so I'm confused. Why would Daria go off against Amy when Amy already got a bracket?
Amy had a bye week last week.
I don't know what that means.
That means she didn't compete. So Jim Battenfield, Amy Pancake, and Chris Peterson all had a bye week based on the rankings, which means they did not. They automatically went to round 2 without having to compete against anybody. That's how the tournament got set up. Okay. And basically, so how the rankings worked, and that's the only way to like make it evenly match up, because we have an odd number of people competing. So how the rankings worked is anybody that has participated in one of these voting things in the past automatically were the top ranked ones, and everybody else was lower ranked, and those were all done randomly. So everybody that was top ranked, there's like 6 of us, I think. They all got assigned 1 through 6 randomly, and then the rest got assigned 7 through, I think, 13 randomly. So like yourself, myself, and a couple other people were in the top ranked, but we didn't make the bye because we weren't in the top 3. We got assigned randomly. So.
Boy, okay. Well, and in the next bracket, it was Dawn against me. And
you're so hold on. I just got to point out how just over this you are right now. You're just like, I don't want to talk about anything with you right now. Just Let me move on.
Well, the whole bracket things, I'm like, I don't understand this. And then I was like, well, I don't know that I need to understand it. It's okay. Moving on. So Dawn against me. Dawn won by 55 votes over 13. I only had 13 votes. Truthfully, I also forgot it was time to vote. Didn't even vote for myself, but obviously my votes wouldn't have mattered. And I'm although I'm not above like creating fake Instagram accounts
Clearly.
to vote for myself. Never did that. Okay, maybe with Chris, oh my God,
Whatever
brain
his
fart.
name is.
Whatever his
more.
goddamn name is. I've had a long day. Yeah, but anyway, Dawn won by 55. I bid it with 13 votes. And Dawn will face Chris Peterson next week.
Can I just say this might be my favorite, most entertaining beginning of a podcast for me, because seeing you so irritated and just like, I don't even want to fucking do this right now, but I'm here.
I'm here, God damn it. So we're doing this podcast and we're doing it right.
Moving on.
You go.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I was up against Justin Little, and it looks like I move on with 17 votes to 11.
Fixed.
Yeah. I did vote for myself, though, unlike somebody.
Hey, at least you voted for yourself. It's a sad dog that can't wag its own dog's tail. All right. So also there was Cameron and Stacy, and Cameron took 77% with 24 votes, and Stacy only got 23% with 7 votes.
Yep.
Josh and Cameron will face each other next week.
Yep. So
Woohoo.
Cameron Barlow, you better start recruiting because I'm coming for you.
Wow, scary. I'm just proud of you, Josh, that you made it past round 1. Because
I know I was thinking the same thing, and I even said at the beginning, like I would actually be disappointed if people voted for me because I left off a couple what I think are very good. So my list is good. Let's not lie, but I think I left off a couple that probably should have been on there. So anyway.
Oh well, yeah.
So on that note, I'm winning it all this time. I'm from last to first.
Ooh, okay. Going on. All right. Well, voting is going to take place on Saturday, on April 16th, since Sunday's Easter. So make sure you vote on Saturday instead of Sunday. I'll have to set myself a reminder to make sure to vote for Cameron.
Yeah. Oh, hey, is that the first little humor I've seen from you today? Very good.
Yes, that was it. That was it. All right, we're gonna move on to the powerlifting situation now.
We got grumpy Laura today. She's starting to get a little happier.
I'm sorry.
Just to brighten your day here.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry I interrupted you. I'm sure.
All right, powerlifting situation. Here's the situation. Bum, bum, bum. After second deadlifts, you're in second place via body weight. On your third deadlift, you can take a 2.5 kilo jump to move into first place, or jump into what you feel you are capable of, which is the 10 kilo jump. If you miss, your competitor doesn't even need to pull their third deadlift to beat you. What type of third attempt do you take?
Yeah, this is a good one, and I see this play out all the time. This actually played out at the Arnold with Lee when we were competing against Patricia Johnson. Basically, it really. So the safe answer is take the minimum jump to move into first and make your competitor pull their third attempt. That's the default safe answer, I think. But I think there's also a high probability, if it's a 2.5 kilo jump, that they can also make a 2.5 kilo jump and beat you. So,
right.
It's probably, unless their second attempt just looked like everything they had. And that's the part you have to weigh out is the harder their third attempt looked. I'm sorry, the harder your opponent's second attempt looked. I would say the more almost conservative you want to be with yours. To make sure you get it, because if you miss, it's over. So, there's that fine line between doing enough that your opponent can't make their third and doing too little where, they can, you're not pushing them out of their comfort zone. So it really depends on the situation here. Again, the safe answer is always do the minimum you can to get into first place. But when you're really paying attention and understand, what your competitor has pulled in the past, and also like what their previous attempts have looked like. And if you haven't been watching that, then if you're flying blind here and you don't know what, you have no clue of how much your competitor has left, then you probably want to, put something on that you're pretty is almost a slam dunk for you, just to make them pull a third, because you have no idea. But in a situation like like when we were lifting with Lee, like Lee actually pulled a pretty big PR third attempt, because watching Patricia, like I knew she had a lot left, and even so, she still pulled and beat us. But we put I think we had about every kilo on the bar that Lee could actually make in that situation. And if we would have gone in a little bit heavier and Lee missed, then Patricia wouldn't even need to pull her third. So it's really a balancing act, and you can overshoot and get a little too confident and miss, and then it's already game over.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why it's like a game of chess.
Yeah. So that was really a non-answer I just gave, but I think the more experienced you are, then the more you can be, I guess, the better you can gauge how much somebody has left, both your own lifter and your opponent, so you can make a better judgment call on how much to put on the bar. I'd say the lesser experienced you are, the more conservative you probably want to be with your third attempt, and put the pressure on the other person to make their lift, I guess.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think the key in this situation is after second deadlifts, you're in second place via body weight. Like, you're not in second place just because you have lifted a lot more than the other person. You're just there in body weight. So yeah, looking at how they moved their second deadlift, that would be, and also looking at how you moved your second deadlift.
Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing, it doesn't explicitly say this in here, but if you pay attention to how the meet works, it's implied in here that the other lifter is lifting after you,
right? Or
maybe even says that. Yeah. So the other lifter is lifting after you, which means you have the bigger subtotal. So what means you have the lower deadlift, which is why you're going first. So, and you're obviously the heavier lifter because you're in second via body weight. So basically the person lifting after you just has to tie your total, and they'll win. So put on as much as you can to that you can still make for sure.
Right. For sure. All right. So our new lifter tip this week: pay attention to whether the warm-up weights at a meet are kilos or pounds. If using kilos, 3 reds is not 315.
That is true.
Agree or disagree? Yeah, I guess you agree.
Yeah. And I've seen this happen a lot where people are warming up and they just, three plates is 315, right? Well, not when they're 25 kilo plates. You know who actually made this mistake, and I'm going to throw him out there under the bus, I guess.
Oh no, who?
Somebody that you wouldn't expect to do this.
Jeremy Hartman.
I love that was your guess. for 2 reasons. One, just because it's fun to throw out Jeremy Hartman's name, but 2, because that's your guess as to the person that would make that bonehead mistake. Jeremy Hartman. That's really funny to me.
But was I right?
No.
No.
I would say even more
Awesome.
of a long shot guess. Dave Ricks.
Really?
Yeah. So I was helping him warm up. And I've probably told Dave Ricks stories before, but he's warming up. Let's throw another plate on. Let's throw another plate on. Well, we were warming up for bench at a meet, and he hit one plate, and these are 25 kilo plates. He's like, throw another plate on. So I'm like, all right, I assume he knew what he was lifting, right? Because it's Dave Ricks. He's been competing for decades. Yeah, and then he's like, and he did like 5 reps at 2 plates, which is 264 because it was not we didn't have the competition collars on. And then he goes, throw another plate on. He does that for like 3, which is 374. And he gets up and just kind of looks around. He's like, man, he just kind of like waves his arms around a little bit. He's like, man, 315 is feeling kind of heavy today. And he's dead serious. So there's 2 takeaways to this. First one is like, holy crap, how do you make that big of a mistake and not realize it? The second takeaway is like 374 felt a little bit heavy when you thought it was 315. Like, holy crap, like that's kind of an awesome.
Right, especially on a bench press.
On a bench press, right.
Ow.
Yeah. So sorry, Dave, for telling that story. I believe that was at Nationals when it was in San Antonio, I think. No, it might have been Denver, Colorado. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant to the story.
Right.
But yeah. So that's one thing. Like, if Dave Ricks can make that mistake, you can make that mistake too. So just pay attention to what's being used.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's make this short and sweet and make like a tree and get out of here. So
I don't see the tree reference, but okay.
So my friend Tim, he always takes these cliche sayings and like mixes them up. So like, make like a tree and leave.
Oh, okay,
he's like, make like a tree and get out of here. And then another one, the early bird gets the worm. He's like, even a blind squirrel gets a worm. He'll say that because like it's actually even a blind squirrel finds a nut, and he'll mix those 2 up and say it that way.
I like that one better.
Yeah, it's entertaining. So, but what's funny is like he said those things so many times as a joke. Like now when I say them, like I say them the wrong way, and people look at me like, "What are you talking?" Like just now when I said that, like make like a tree and get out of here. It's funny to me, but yeah, most people just think I'm stupid.
Yeah, it's like when I say strategery, people think, yeah, but that's a Dan Sturmism, and I'm just so used to it that I forget that not everyone uses strategery.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's
people
totally
will catch on.
Yes.
So cool. All right, let's shut it down. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast. The voting for round 2 of the top 5. What is this list? Top 5 movie soundtracks. Top 5 movie soundtracks. Voting is going to be on Saturday, so check our IG stories for that. And if you're interested in getting powerlifting coaching, don't forget to follow Team Roar on Instagram. Shoot us a DM or fill out our beginning questionnaire, and we can set up a free Zoom consult and kind of go over everything in more detail if you're looking to get some help and move on to the next level. So good talk. We'll talk to you guys next week. Later.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.